mother-daughter talk show that's here to elevate your life.
That's exactly right. And today we have a great show planned for you guys. We are going to have our In the Spotlight segment features John Schmarkey. John Schmarkey is the lead singer and songwriter for a group called All the Locals, an up-and-coming group that's been making the tours, at least they were before the pandemic, and really just getting really well known on the music scene. Also, Elevate is going to take you to Montgomery, Alabama, and share in our time with you there. Our family's going to share some of our adventures that we experienced while we were there. And last but not least, Adriana, Anna, and I are going to share with you about how to update or upgrade your outdoor spaces in our Maintaining the Garden segment. So before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit about some news. What is this I hear about LAB grown meat? That's disturbing to me.
Well, there's been a lot of progress in the lab-grown meat industry and scientific research. A lot of companies, particularly in Singapore, have been making lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
There's one company that's made chicken nuggets, and that they've been testing those chicken nuggets out. And then another company named Alfie Farm has made the first lab-grown ribeye steak using 3D bioprinting.
Okay, that's a problem. Now, problem. I got one thing to say. Remember the song that you learned in preschool or kindergarten? It was called Old MacDonald Had a Farm, not Old MacDonald Had a Lab.
Well, this is New McDonald.
Well, we don't want new. We want the old, give me my chickens and my cows. Buck, buck, moo, moo. All right, moving on. How about the story, and I think you read it, about parents and students from a Florida high school that were very angry when they found out that 80 of the photos in the yearbook, in the high school yearbook, had been edited. Of the girls' photos, had been edited because someone thought that the girls were immodest, that what they were wearing were immodest, the tops that they were wearing were immodest. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's awful. First of all, the school's dress code was vague and unfair.
Yep.
I mean, the dress code never said that they couldn't show cleavage, and the boys were wearing Speedos. The boys' swim team were wearing Speedos in the yearbook pictures.
So a little bit of cleavage was a problem, but showing their couscous was not a problem.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. And I heard that it was a unilateral decision made by the yearbook chair committee woman, and that the school was in the process of rectifying the matter and trying to make things right with the students and their parents. So that's a good thing. But I just think it's very interesting, the disparity there, don't you think?
Yeah, there's definitely a double standard.
Definitely. And finally, May 25th, which was just a couple of days ago, or maybe was it yesterday?
Yes.
Marked the 1-year anniversary of the George Floyd shooting by former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. What do you think about that? It's been a year later.
They've been... Biden has been trying to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed, but I mean, it needs bipartisan support, and so far it hasn't gotten it. And it's just terrible that black people of color being murdered by police is a political issue.
And we could just hope and pray that they will continue to push, and we need to push and put the pressure on our politicians to do the next thing and to get this policy passed. So with that being said, we are going to take a break, but we will be right back, so do not go away. Well, we're back, and now we're going to be doing something called Around the Town. If you haven't watched our show before, this is where we take you to spaces and places that we've visited either in the metro Atlanta area or in other places, other states, other cities that we visited. In today's Around the Town, we're going to be taking you to Montgomery, Alabama, which is a place full of lots of history, particularly a lot of history around the civil rights movement. Do you remember that, Age?
Yes, I remember that trip, and while we were there, we went to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, and I actually got to play on the piano that is played by one of the musicians that Martin Luther King hired.
Yeah, 60 years ago he hired the same woman, and she still plays that piano and the organ that's at this church. But we did a lot of other things, so take a look at our adventures in Montgomery, Alabama. This week, our Around the Town segment takes us down the road to Montgomery, Alabama, a place bursting with an abundant amount of history about the civil rights movement. Our first stop in the city took us to the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. The Dexter Avenue Baptist Church congregation was organized in 1877 by free people of color. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the pastor of the church from 1954 to 1960. He organized the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott from his basement office. After viewing a short video in the downstairs museum area, our tour guide took our group upstairs to view the main sanctuary. While we were there, our daughter Adriana, who is a musician, had an opportunity to play a song on the piano. This piano is still being played by Mrs. Althea Thomas, the musician hired by Dr. King over 60 years ago. We then made our way over to the Dexter Parsonage Museum, which was located just a few blocks away. This is the home where Dr. King lived with his family while pastoring in Montgomery. Although we didn't have a chance to visit, the Rosa Parks Museum, located on the Troy University Montgomery Satellite Campus, is another great place where you can see lots of history. The museum is an active memorial to the life of civil rights icon Rosa Parks and the lessons of the Montgomery bus boycott. It contains information, exhibits, and some artifacts from the boycott. Before we left the downtown area, we drove past the Alabama State Capitol and the Alabama Judicial Building. Montgomery is not only a city that looks to its past, but it is also clearly focused on changing its future, as evidenced by electing its first African American mayor and by hiring a black artist to paint a Black Lives Matter mural around Court Square Fountain, a place where slaves were formerly sold. Our trip to Montgomery, Alabama was a rich learning experience, and we're looking forward to visiting again soon. Well, we'll be right back, so don't go away. Well, we're back, and in this segment, Adriana and I are going to be talking with you about how to maintain your garden. In an earlier segment, in an earlier episode, we talked about setting up a garden, starting a summer garden. Well, whatever garden you start has to be maintained. And so today we're talking about how to maintain your garden. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. This is Did You Know time. So Adriana is going to share with us some obscure fun facts about things that we didn't know about. So give us some Did You Know facts, Age.
Okay, so did you know that vanilla beans come from orchids? Yes.
You're kidding.
Yes, it's very surprising. I was very surprised to learn that vanilla beans come from a type of orchid,
Really?
Vanilla planifolia.
Yeah.
And it's the only orchid that can produce an edible fruit.
Really? I had no idea that beans came from, well, it's a special
Yeah,
kind of
vanilla
orchid.
beans come from orchids.
Okay, so I can't necessarily go to the Home Depot and get me an orchid and start scraping the middles out.
No.
Okay. All right. What else?
So, did you know that you can change a hydrangea's color by altering the pH of the soil?
I did know that.
Oh.
I did know that from your science class. Thank you, Mrs. Angela Paul, the best science teacher in the whole world. I did know that. Yes.
Okay, so if you If you want your hydrangea plants to be more blue,
Yeah.
you can add alkaline things
Yes.
like eggshells or coffee grounds.
Okay.
But if you want it to be more pink,
Yeah.
you add more acidic stuff to it.
Okay.
Soil.
Okay. Now I didn't know that. I didn't know exactly what to add in where, but I did know that depending on the acidity or acidicness
Yes.
of the soil, that it does change the color. So that is an interesting fact, though, for people that may not have known that. Hit me with one more did you know fact.
Did you know that tulips used to be an extremely valuable financial asset?
Really?
Yes. In the Netherlands in
Yeah.
the 17th century, there
Yeah.
was an event called
Yeah.
Tulip Mania, where investors began to really madly purchase these tulips with a
Yes.
specific pattern on them.
Right.
And it used to be that the one tulip bulb was as much as some people's annual salaries.
Right. So you could say, "Stick 'em up, give me your tulips."
Yep, you could.
Wow. I don't think that means anything to us today, right?
No,
I don't think so. Well, very interesting facts. Thank you for sharing, as usual, these wonderful, fun, obscure, did you know facts. All right, so let's talk about maintaining your garden. Like I said before, any garden that's planted has to be maintained. And so Adriana, it takes us to her vegetable garden and talks about the things that she does to maintain it. Take a look.
Okay, so here I am in the backyard, and this is my raised bed garden that I planted about 6 weeks ago. I've got a row of tomatoes in the back, and up front I've got 3 bell peppers and a jalapeno. I've got some herbs around the border, and I've got some cucumbers right here. So basically what I've been doing every day is I have been watering the plants. I water it with a watering can sometimes, but since it hasn't been raining much, I've really been giving it a good soaking with the watering hose. You know, it gets very hot here in Georgia, so it's really important for me to make sure that the plants are getting watered regularly, because otherwise they'll get scorched up. I've also been pulling weeds. As you can see, there's some weeds growing here in the center, but I'm going to pull those up, and I've just been pulling up the weeds as they come up. So another thing that I'm going to be doing is, now that the tomatoes are getting bigger, they're starting to sort of come out of their cages a bit, and I want to make sure they're stable. So I'm going to tie up some of the branches with string so that they stay in place. So I've got some pieces of string already cut, and I'm just going to take some of these larger branches, like this one right here that is popping out, and I'm just going to take this string and wrap it around here a couple of times. And that'll keep this branch from falling out of the cage. And I'm also going to string this branch right here, because this one's rather large. Now this tomato right here is still small, but I'm going to string a couple of the branches on some of the other two as well. So I will tie this one in place. There we go. And I'm going to tie this branch in place too. It's getting heavy because it's got a tomato growing on it. So I'm just going to tie this one right up top. So there we go. That's just a little trick that you can use to keep your tomatoes from falling out of their cages and, you know, having the branches broken.
Now, Adriana, she is in charge of maintaining the vegetable garden on our campus, but I'm in charge of maintaining the flower garden, which is at the front of our house. So take a look at some of the things that I do to maintain my roses and other flowers that are on the campus. Take a look. So here I am in my rose garden with my knockout roses. They don't look very knocked out right now. Well, maybe they do look knocked out, but they were in full bloom about 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. But the first bloom has come and gone. So what that means is I need to deadhead. Deadheading means just basically snipping the dead leaves and at the buds, taking off the buds so that it can stimulate more growth, and so that has to be done basically in all the places where there are dead leaves, buds, whatever you want to call them. Now I'm not going to take the time right now to do an entire rose bed. As you can see, it's a pretty large area, but this will eventually be done for each of these bushes. What I want to do, so if you want to stimulate your roses, you would definitely need a deadhead, and in a few weeks, once these have all been deadheaded, there'll be a whole new crop of roses. The wonderful thing about knockout roses is that I really don't do a whole lot other than what you see with the deadheading. Sometimes I might do a little bit of weeding in case the vines get up all in here, but it's wonderful. I put them in the ground, I don't know, 8-10 years ago or so, and they just have done their own thing, and I'm blessed every time I see them. What we're going to do is walk over here to another part of the garden. And this is where my lilies and my Shasta daisies are, along with my lantana. Now, my lantana bush I've had for quite some time. I've had this bush, I don't know, 10, 12 years, and it likes to take over. I love it, but it will take over the entire garden if I let it. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit off so that it doesn't grow all into the other plants. And so that's just kind of what we do, and you have to do that in your flower beds, you know, because some bushes, plants grow more than others, and lantana is definitely one of them. This bush is perennial, and it comes back every summer, and soon there'll be bright blooms, little bitty blooms at the ends of each of these. You can see a little bit of them coming in now, but it'll be full of bright orangey, yellowy blooms, and it's just a wonder to see. So we love this bush. I love this bush. Just a few more pieces to kind of make sure it doesn't grow into my Shasta daisies, which are looking kind of sad right now, although I gave this bed a really good soaking not long ago. The thing about beds like these is you have to layer them with something to help keep the moisture in. So I'm going to do that right now. I've got some pine straw, and I'm just going to gently just kind of toss them around so that we can lock in that moisture like that. Lock in the moisture. You want to do that. It really does help, especially in this Georgia heat. It helps to keep the moisture in. So you just kind of want to layer it lightly like that, all around just like that, until you get the entire bed done, just like that. There you go. Well, we need to take another little break, but don't go away because we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. And in our In the Spotlight segment for this week, we had a chance to sit down with John Schmarkey, who is the lead singer and songwriter for the popular Georgia band All the Locals. John talked to us about what it's like to navigate a band and be the leader, and he introduced us to some of the other band members. We had a great time just chit-chatting about making music, and that elevates people's lives. So take a look at our time together. Okay. All right, John, it's a pleasure to have you here on the Elevate Show. So excited.
I'm very excited.
Yay. And so I just want to start right out giving you a chance to kind of talk to my audience and let them know, give us a little backstory on how and when the band All the Locals got started. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So so Ty and I have been very good friends for a long time growing up, through elementary, middle, high school.
Wow.
We finally decided to just stop being in rival bands and start a new band.
Yeah.
And we wanted it to be as Atlanta as it could be, just super diverse, a lot of music, obviously. And you know what how it is.
Right.
We like all music around here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of it derives from the gospel scene, hip hop, R&B, country music, rock and roll, all of it. So we kind of wanted to form an amalgamation of all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we met a lot of cool friends in the neighborhood, moving to Avondale, honestly, right near that original Waffle House.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah. And we kind of fooled around with some songs and with the names and all that. And at the time, our drummer Dino and Ty were sitting on my front porch out there, and they were like, ATL. All right, what can we do with that? And we're all locals, and All the Locals, so the acronym ATL.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that went. It was just front porch sitting sort of stuff.
That's wonderful.
But the music came like super fast, and it was really that February of 2012. We have formulated like 4 or 5 songs, and we said yes to doing a couple of shows. Like, I guess we'll put a 30-minute set together, and then we literally recorded those songs.
Wow. With
Johnny B and Sonica behind Atlantic Station in May or June.
Wow.
It moved pretty quick, and we had 2 shows under our belt.
Wow.
We have 500-600, but
yes.
No, it's the most fun. There's nothing like it just really any industry you're in. There's nothing like finally finding a family. People that you can do art with. That's the weird thing, right? This is art you're creating.
Right,
and
exactly.
A family of brothers and sisters, because we added a female into the mix too, and she's still with us to this day, Nikki. Actually, she couldn't even be here. I wanted her to be here today, but Wednesday night at rehearsal. We rehearsed days. But man, the band family is one. It's one heck of a ride.
I'm very curious about how do you go about putting together a successful band, because you guys have been together a while now.
You really got to know the business these days.
Definitely.
And also because these technology tools that we use, social media and stuff, you have to learn how to market and use the business with that.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, these days, even to make a post, and you know this,
you
got to. It's like a billboard on the side.
Oh, it is, John. It is.
So basically, you got to force yourself. If you want to do all that, you've got to learn the business. You can't burn bridges, because that's a small world.
Wow, that's big.
You got to be a team player. Bad things are going to happen, and good things are going to happen. You got to learn how to roll with that. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't be working with these people if you didn't love them or have something special with them. So even if little things happen, you just got to remember that. Once you humble yourself and go back to the core of why you did it, it makes it a little bit easier.
Wow.
But also, it's networking is another big thing. You got to network. You got to impress some people at first. You got even if it's not company people, if it's other bands, because those bands can help put you on their stage. can catapult and make your own stage.
Also, I want to mention to our audience that don't you have a degree or some background,
Yes,
educational background in music?
Yeah, so I also have a music business degree from Georgia State.
That helps.
Fun fact, it's the same professors and same classes that Ludacris had.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And actually, I don't know why I just name dropped that, but
that's all good.
For him, I told him that.
Really?
He looked at me like, don't tell anybody that.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the other band members? You've mentioned Ty, you've mentioned Dino. Who are the other band members and what do they do?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we have Justin, who I've literally been playing in a band with since I was like 10. We have a new bass player.
So there's how many band members in all?
Okay, so depending on the budget of the show, there's always 5 or 6 members.
Okay.
Now, and then we would love 100% of the time to have our horn section.
Right.
So there could be up to 9 people on that stage.
You know, there are a lot of bands out there, as I've mentioned before. What makes your band, or at least the kind of music that your band plays, so special? How does it make a difference in people's lives, if you think it does?
One thing I've noticed is that it's very all ages and all demographics, which is really cool. There really is a flavor for everybody in there. But
wow, I love that.
So I'd say I would say it's very original. So that's my theory.
For those of you who want to hear some good, just creative, wonderful sounds, check out John and all the locals in June. You said, right? The first thing is coming up in June.
You can stream us anywhere.
Well, we're back, but we're almost out of time. But before we go, Adriana is going to tell you about an online cooking class that she's going to be offering for kids. Adriana, you want to tell them a little bit more about that?
Yes, so I am a host of a YouTube channel called Cooking at the Coffins, and this summer, June 28th through July 19th, I'm going to be teaching 4 weeks of cooking classes for kids ages 7 to 13. Mm-hmm. The classes are $40 per device for all 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And each week, your kid will get step-by-step instruction on how to make 2 recipes, a dinner and a dessert recipe, and they'll also get to learn about food and kitchen safety. So click the link below to sign up and see more information on the class.
Wow. And as usual, we want to invite you to tell us your stories of how you are elevating someone's life, or maybe even how someone has elevated your life. Have you lost weight? Have you kicked that habit of maybe smoking? Have you overcome a serious health challenge like cancer? Tell us your stories. We want to invite you to be in the Spotlight segment of our show. Adriana, tell them a little bit more about how they can do that.
So to share your stories, go to our Elevate YouTube channel and subscribe. Mm-hmm. Then email your stories and pictures to elevateytchannel@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. You can also become a friend of the Elevate's Facebook page, and that will allow you to share your stories and pictures with us there as well.
Terrific. Well, as usual, we want to thank you for being a guest on our show. Not for being a guest, but viewing our show. We don't take that for granted. We know that there's all kinds of things that you can be doing, but you've chosen to share your time with us, and we want to thank you for that. Please remember to like and share and subscribe to our channel. And when can they see us, Adriana?
We upload to YouTube every Sunday at 6 o'clock, and we also are on DeKalb County, Georgia's public access channel 25 Sundays at 7 o'clock p.m.
Yes, so tune in and like and subscribe and share. And in the meantime, thank you for watching. Have a great week.
See you next week.